Jenseits des Tales standen ihre Zelte, zum hohen Abend Himmel quoll der Rauch. Das war ein Singen in dem ganzen Heere, und ihre Reiterbuben sangen auch. Das war ein Singen in dem ganzen Heere, und ihre Reiterbuben sangen auch. Sie putzten klirrend am Geschirr der Pferde, er tänzelte die Marketenderin, und unterm Singen sprach der Knaben einer: Mädchen, du weißt, wo ging der König hin? Und unterm Singen sprach der Knaben einer: Mädchen, du weißt, wo ging der König hin? Diesseits des Tales stand der junge König und griff die feuchte Erde aus dem Grund. Sie kühlte nicht die Glut der armen Stirne, sie machte nicht sein krankes Herz gesund. Sie kühlte nicht die Glut der armen Stirne, sie machte nicht sein krankes Herz gesund. Ihn hielten nur zwei jugendfrische Wangen und nur ein Mund, den er sich selbst verbot. Noch fester schloss der König seine Lippen und sah hinüber in das Abendrot. Noch fester schloss der König seine Lippen und sah hinüber in das Abendrot. Jenseits des Tales standen ihre Zelte, vom roten Abendhimmel quoll der Rauch, und war ein Lachen in dem ganzen Heere, und jener Reiterbube lachte auf. Und war ein Lachen in dem ganzen Heere, und jener Reiterbube lachte auf.
Glocken stürmten vom Bernhardsturm, der Regen durchrauschte die Straßen. Und durch die Glocken und durch den Sturm erschallte des Kurhorns Blasen. Und durch die Glocken und durch den Sturm erschallte des Kurhorns Blasen. Das Büffelhorn, das so lang geruht, fein Stoßberg nahm's aus der Lade, Das alte Horn, das brüllt nach Blut und wimmert Gott Gnade. Das alte Horn, das brüllt nach Blut und wimmert Gott Gnade. Ja, Gnade dir Gott, du Rinderschaft, der Bauer stand auf im Lande und tausendjährige Bauernkraft macht Schild und Scherben zu Schande. Und tausendjährige Bauernkraft macht Schild und Scherben zu Schande. Die Klingsburg hoch am Berge lag, sie zogen hinauf in Waffen. Auframmte der Schmied mit einem Schlag das Tor, das er frohnend geschaffen. Auframmte der Schmied mit einem Schlag das Tor, das er frohnend geschaffen. Dem Ritter fuhr ein Schlag ins Gesicht und ein Spaten zwischen die Rippen. Er brachte das Schwert aus der Scheide nicht und nicht den Fluch von den Lippen. Er brachte das Schwert aus der Scheide nicht und nicht den Fluch von den Lippen. Aufrauschte die Flamme mit aller Kraft nach Balken und Bogen und Bande. Ja, Gnade dir Gott, du Ritterschaft, der Bauer stund auf im Lande. Ja, Gnade dir Gott, du Ritterschaft, der Bauer stund auf im Lande.
How nice of you to join me. Baru himself reacted immediately. Grabbing his carbine, he joined Captain Fivet of Headquarters Company, who had gathered together a few of his men for a counterattack against the hill crest to the north of the convoy, from which murderous machine gun fire still kept pouring into the massed vehicles. At 14:35, the colonel was hit in the thigh by a bar bullet. Captain Fivet, like Sergeant Lee Salm a few minutes earlier, was dying next to Baru, his chest torn open by a machine gun burst. The colonel, using his emergency prerogatives, conferred upon the dying young officer the officer's cross of the Legion of Honor in articulo mortis. But Fivet, in all likelihood, did not live long enough to hear him. Street Without Joy. It's a pretty good read if you have any interest in military history. This is an account of by a person named Bernard B. Fall. It's one of the seminal books to come out of the French Indochina War. And Fall is a pretty interesting character. He was born in Austria and the son of Jewish parents. And in 1938, he, on account of the Anschluss of Austria, he emigrated to France, where he served in the French resistance and during the war. And after the war, he studied at the University of Paris. And through the strange twists and turns of life, he eventually ended up in the United States. And from there, he kind of returned to his French connections and went to Indochina and served as kind of an embedded journalist of sorts with the French army in Indochina. Indochina, of course, being what you today would think of as Cambodia, Laos, and of course Vietnam. Military history is not really, my biggest interest in life. What is this? Away with you. Away with all of you. But if you have any interest in it, I can certainly recommend that book. I noticed straight away that I've done a couple of great things here with everything. I have For starters, I managed to set the aspect ratio on Twitch to something abhorrent, so something is kind of messed up there. I could try to fix that, but I think what we're going to do is take that down as a note for future improvements for the next stream. I think I had this tested pretty darn well, but apparently not well enough. So this is great. There's a lot of people here just joining up in Valhalla, where I'm at right now. So my name is Björn Johannesson, and I am one half of the dynamic developer duo behind the game called Haven Hearth, which we are presently looking at. And tonight, I'm going to be streaming with you guys, and we are going to do something we did a couple of streams ago, I believe. We are going to start a new character, and yeah, we're going to start a new character and kind of take some looks at how the early game is playing out with a new character, of course. We're late into the world now. This world has been going on for more than 1 year now. So it's a pretty old world by our standards, and that certainly makes it easier. I tried a new character earlier today, kind of in preparation for what we're going to do tonight, and I already had some thoughts and some observations, but yeah, I'm sure we'll be able to find more things that could be better and blah 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 blah. Okay, so what I'm going to do straight away is, and also, of course, during all of this nonsense, you are, of course, entirely free to ask questions, and I shall try to answer them as best as I can. There we go. We're going to roll a new character. We got a quick view of my character list there. Fortunately, I have prepared it with dummy characters, so you did not get to see my real character name, y'all. And so here we have a new character, and we're just going to roll through the character creation room real quick. I'm not going to spend any time on this because we want to get into the action. And also, alright, I'm going to do that later. I am going to try to... Jordan Colsey asks for stone and bush hedges, please, thanks. Well, Jordan Coles, I've already made a note of this. And it is indeed a project on our kind of intermediate development list. So let's take a look at our little dork here, and of course nothing save the full beard could complement the full beard of yours truly, so that's what we're going to rock, obviously. And being as I am a distinguished gentleman, we're going to try to find the color of a distinguished gentleman. Autumn barley, I think that's pretty good. And let's see what hair we're going to use. Could definitely add some more hairstyles and whatnot here. Would love that. I don't know, what do you guys think? Should we do a rough cut, unkempt, monk, mohawk, beetle, bald? I think a unkempt look for that wild man feel. And then we're going to... And one thing I noticed earlier today as well is that Gandalf here has dropped his poses, or his cape pose at least. I kind of no. Artemis WHB asks, do you still have that ancient monitor? No, in fact, the ancient monitor had a bit of a heart attack, so the ancient monitor is no more. Romban, bom, ban, bom. That's gonna be our name. Yeah, that's a goner. Yeah, it's a shame. It was a real, workhorse. It had been with me for like 10 years and was Loftar before that. So, and right away we find ourselves in Dees. We have entered a fair realm, and this is the fact that we are already in an established realm is obviously one of the things that makes this a lot easier than it's going to be, or than it is during a new world. And let's see now, I have a little thing I'm going to do here. We're going to try, if this works, to... oh, that did not work. Let's see... That worked. There we go. So now we have a new map. And you can do this yourself. There's a client command called characters CHR map, and you can set a new ID for your map. And the reason I do that is obviously A, because I don't want to kind of cheat. A new character wouldn't have a map, and B, I don't want to show you my map, the one that I use for my character. Perlim asks, any chance an extra octave could be added to the music instruments, excluding drums, obviously? That is certainly something that we could consider. I suppose the input question is the only question that really puts brakes on the fun there. There would have to be some sort of idea. We would have to have some sort of idea as to how to control the input for that. So one of the things that you do, obviously, early world is you run around, or early character on a new character is run around and pick all the various resources that are available in the game world, and there are quite a few of them. And you do this, as you notice, my character gets the annoying Zelda discovery sound every time he does this, and he also gets learning points. Learning points obviously being useful to buy stats and abilities and whatnot. And one of the things I noticed here, immediately under the skill screen here, is that one thing I really don't like is how broad the skill tree is initially. I think there are far too many skills to choose between, and I think also a lot of them are basically traps. And by that I do not mean transvestites, but things that you are actively hampering yourself by picking this early, like baking should not be here. Fishing should arguably also not be here. We hear a whisper on the winds. This is our first quest giver, Bernay, over there. Wow, and wow, we just find bone right away. Q41 bone, that's great. Can you fix the violin? It's terrible, someone asked. Maybe, I don't know what's terrible about it. You're terrible. Let's see what we're gonna do. First of all, we're going to bring our survival skill up a little bit. And did we buy foraging? No, we did not. So we're going to buy foraging. Basically, I think the only skill that should really be here is kind of foraging, and everything else should flow from that pretty much. Maybe like the will to power. Arden's TV asks, what about the ability to change your appearance after character creation? Even a $1 store item, I'd buy it to change hairstyles. Maybe, I could consider that. I always love, new shekels for me, but I could also see that just being a player skill. Not sure how, but it's definitely an idea we could consider. Thank you to everyone who uses the store, by the way. It makes a huge difference for us that we can actually make some amount of money doing this. Otherwise, it would be harder than it is. Yeah, so we're going to just keep on picking resources, acquire an axe. Do we even have... I'm a bit low on stamina already. I need to find like a birch to make a kaksa, I think. So yeah, we're going to take notes. And this is the old note file from the last stream. As you can see, positively none of this has been implemented. So yeah, this is definitely will consider.txt. So none of this has been implemented pretty much. So basically everything we, yeah. And if you have your bingos ready, your bingo, what do you call that? Bingo tickets or whatever out, then here, I hope you can see that. That's the Jordan Cozy Your Tears mug. So now we have that down. That's 1 point to all of those of you who are playing the bingo, the Haven and Hearth bingo. I loved that. Saw it on the forums, and I thought it was a great idea to play the bingo. So Twitch has been kind of a little bit annoying to set up. There are several things I don't like about it. There are several things I most likely don't understand about it, because I'm, me being kind of noobish and getting the aspect ratio off and everything. One of the things that I don't really like is that I can't see like just a count of people in the chat anywhere. If someone could tell me how many people are watching, that would be awesome. I would really appreciate that information. And yeah, right, man, I'm just kind of moving around. randomly not really focusing. 166 people watching, apparently. That's some sort of neighbor of the beast. So yeah, we're gonna just get our character rolling a little bit more, focused on that, focus less on the chat. Below the stream, it shows the number in red. Okay. Below the stream where? I dare you to go into the first beaver dam you find, says Dangar. Dangar, I dare you to go into the first beaver dam I find. So this is definitely a challenge of multitasking here and keeping an eye on both on my character and on the chat. So you'll forgive me if I'm not, playing optimally or whatever. Let's see, odds and ends. We can now make ourselves a birch bark kuksa, and the first thing we're going to do after we've done that is to make ourselves a wooden cup. So I suggest, yeah, one thing I definitely think the game should inform you better, that there is an actual skill screen, and that you can acquire skills to increase your character's abilities. A bit torn on skills in general right now. I'm not sure where they are in terms of like design of the game. We haven't added a new skill in like ages, and the discovery system arguably takes care of some of the more important aspects of unlocking new skills. Most of it is done through discoveries. You simply discover a new resource, and when you do, you learn what the things you can craft from that particular resource. And that wasn't always the case, and the skill system is really an older implementation than that. And so Hoylander asks, please enlighten us on the topic of what you developers think would be appropriate levels for tackling different animals effectively with the release of a potential future combat rework. I don't really know. I think generally there should be kind of a scala nature there. There should be just a scale of animals from low, easy animals that you can attack pretty much straight away, like ants. And then you should, be able to level up gradually and just take on more and more dangerous creatures as you go. So where any particular animal fits on that scale is not particularly important to me. I can see there are many ways you could disposition that. So is that an answer to the question? Jordan Colsey, my man, Jordan Coles, says Ant Dungeon hype. Definitely Ant Dungeon hype. There's a boar over there, I notice. We'll probably get ourselves well and truly knocked out. Start getting the stream off to a good start. So I'm kind of, it'll be interesting to see when the cavalry arrives, because obviously streaming a game like this, in case anyone was not aware, this game is full open PvP, permanent death of sorts, and you have to add the qualifier of sorts these days. It's really how low we have fallen. So now my survival, I have 3 points in survival, but I get that bumped up to 3 right away because I'm in D's, which is a fair realm to be certain. And maybe I should have leveled up before I picked that thing. And one of the things to notice is that my survival skill here is entirely determining the quality of the nonsense that I pick up. So for example, I had an effective 6 points of survival meant that this dandelion that I picked up to study in my study report got knocked down to 6 quality points, which makes it worse than it perhaps could have been had my survival skill been higher. Ladybug we got at full 10 quality. Okay, so there's water over here. And where was that quest giver? Fuck the, sorry for my explicit language. I'm going to try to make a point out of being a family-friendly podcast. Or not a podcast, sorry, live stream. We're going to go see Bernay. And I notice here on the map there seems to be a river crossing. So we're going to try to work ourselves over there. And this is also obviously one of the other features of playing in an established world like this, is that here I randomly come across this beautiful little abandoned place, which is full of resources that we could potentially harvest for profit. I think we're going to ignore that and simply move on to our quest giver, but there will certainly be more options like this as we continue playing this exciting and fun game. Hoylander clarifies his question by saying, I appreciate the answer. Let me ask more concisely then, to what degree should the level of player skill in combat be of importance in relation to artificial difficulty, i.e. player stats? That is a good question. I would love it, I think, if player skill was pretty much like 75% of the game, or of the combat system. And you know, obviously it's not a simple metric that you can judge on a like one-dimensional scale, blah blah blah. All those caveats certainly apply. But I think that would be great if we could do that. I think that is going to be hard. We're working on a new combat system now, and we've made some interesting kind of discoveries. One of our initial, you know, initial value going into it was that we were going to make a more directional combat system, I dread mentioning the name Salem, but perhaps more in line with what Salem was doing. And what we discovered fairly quickly was that that system lends itself pretty well to botting or, you know, artificial client improvement of various kinds, like auto aim features and the like. And I read an article once discussing why combat in MMOs suck, and I think there are some inherent limitations. Dropping those bingo points left and right, says Richard. What was the bingo point I dropped? Yeah, some inherent limitations to what you can do in you know, an environment that has latency and, you know, all the BS that an MMO by virtue of being what it is has to have. Okay, so I think we can safely get rid of the Cuxa now. Everything we drop in the water goes into the fishing pool, so if anyone is out fishing tonight, I can reveal on this stream only that there is now a quality 8 Cuxa to be found in the fishing pool. So if you're up for it, if you don't have yours yet, here's your chance. Okay, so we have 389 LP because we've been slacking off with picking the resources and getting ourselves going. HerpDerp03 asks, will StatCap ever return? We're thinking about it. It's definitely not off the table. Their leveling has certainly been off the charts, or it certainly is off the charts in various ways and forms in this world. And that is something that we hope to alleviate. We're going to do and that's something I announced when I did my little State of the Union or first Post of the Year, whatever thingy. I said that we were going to do a major overhaul of food and how it works in all aspects. We're going to go through all the various food buffs and take a look at them and try to put all of them on an intended track. Here's our first fellow traveler. Comes marching in here with thank you. Let's see, where do we have our emotes? We need to bow and present. Bow and present. Thank you. Very kind of you, sir. We're going to catch that. Oops. Is requesting your oath of allegiance to the hedgehogs. I don't want to. No, I don't want to be with the hedgehogs. Come on, boys. Let's go. So if you clap, I kill you. I kill you. So we're going to cross that was fast, by the way, guys. Really fast. I think last time I got to stream for like maybe, half an hour? It's almost been half an hour. So, well, I could delete them, but that would only serve to anger them, I fear. But I can do this. I can dunk them. This is actually kind of dangerous for them because if I dunk them, they can actually drown. That's fun. I'm only kidding you guys. So, moving on. This going to be really hard to do any sort of serious character development when I have these retards running after me. We don't need Birch Catkin, I don't think. I don't think we need... they can't drown. They have 5k con. That's probably true. It's probably for the best as well. So most new characters, I doubt, have the experience. Let's go to talk to Bernie, guys. Let's go to talk to Bernie. He's our first quest giver, our first quest tree, and he's gonna give us instructions on how to flourish in the world. Eat some crap. I think word on the street is that I probably shouldn't be eating anything here because, oh, I just ate a quality 2 grub. How does it feel, guys? Ouch. Quality 3 grub. That is not nice. Ugh. Let's keep. We need to increase our exploration skill as well, so we can find them herbs, boys. Them herbs. So that poor tree is gonna get chopped. Probably will. We found boughs at least. Let's go. Ooh, please kill the snake. Someone kill the snake. I'm being attacked by a snake. But I suppose you can just outwalk them, right? I should probably don't want too much help from these guys. So snakes were added a long time ago. So yeah, we've that was, where was I going with that line of reasoning? That was one of the things that we had kind of discovered with the combat system, is that no, I wanted the Aurochs here. Maybe I can. I don't have hunting yet. I need to get hunting in order to be able to slaughter the creatures that these gentlemen so kindly lay before my feet. Definitely the noob experience, eating horrible foods and having retards with axes run after you. That is true. That is certainly true. So, okay. Oh, we missed Bernie here. We're gonna head over to Bernie. So you better down that bear, boy. I trust you will. So here we go. We're getting really close to Bernie. He's gonna give us our first quest. And ooh, a slow thumping beat pulsating with the age of the forest around you reveals the heart of the wood over yonder. Bernie is actually not a tree. There's a bear here. There's a bear in the woods. Some say there's a bear in the woods. You guys remember that? That was the Reagan Bush ad that ran, warning about the dangers of Russia. Still seems to be a theme in American politics. Let's get some. Let's get that ladybug. Let's get our stats going as well. Need to keep bringing the exploration points up. So yeah, I think the tutorials could definitely be better here. I could use some sort of instruction that I need to buy skills and level up. Maybe that there is actually something about that in this quest, but it instructs me to teleport home. That is truly is a pretty convenient way to lose the gentleman following me as well. So we do that. Norster asks, how long will the stream be? I'm thinking making it maybe a little shorter than we did last time. Last couple of times we did like, ooh, boaty boat. Someone left a boaty boat here. We're gonna take that. That's our boat now. I'm on a boat, and it's going fast, and a little shorter, maybe like an hour and a half, maybe ish, thereabouts. But yeah, other than, so where was I going? There's so many threads in this. I have to, develop my character, take care of the idiots, look at the chat. Too many things going on. Talk about interesting things. One of the things that I was talking about was the combat system and what we're doing with that. And I think what we have right now with the new combat system that we're developing is, I think, objectively speaking, has to be an improvement on what is currently running on the live server. What we've done is basically we have removed we haven't necessarily removed all kinds of openings per se, but we have removed the necessity of them. So the 4-color system is no longer a necessary system. There's only one basic opening now, and that's one thing we did. Another thing we did is that we added local cooldowns to various attacks, which I find works out really well. Compared to the present system, I feel now in PvE, which is, and arguably in PvP as well, is that I feel now that there is a need, or that there's a reason to activate more than one attack, because you have local cooldowns. This is not a system that is in any way new or particularly innovative, but you have it's basically in any MOBA you could play, I think, but you have a local cooldown to certain attacks, which makes makes it so that you can have like special attacks which you can only use so often and whatnot. And so those two changes alone, I think, made what we have already significantly superior, I think, to the combat system that is running on the server right now. So that feels positive. But what we still have to do is basically to go through all the attacks and whatnot, and rework them, reconsider them, and look at how they might work in a new combat system. And that is it's a challenging task, I'll tell you that much, because there are so many variables to combat in a game like this. Two characters can come to the same fight with completely different stats. They can come with completely different set of friends that they bring along with them. And ouch! I just took 12-point crab caress wound. That is my good fortune, I suppose. And so it's really a challenge designing it, and more so than designing it, it's a challenge testing it, because say we add 2 attacks, try to test something. Did we test anything meaningful? Probably not, right? Like, it's then we add 2 more attacks. Now suddenly everything has changed, and we're not sure what happened to the first 2 attacks. So there's so many different variables going into it that you change one thing and it kind of pokes out on the other end, and you have to kind of push that back into the system to something intended. So it is a challenge, and as usual, we're kind of implementing a lot of these things are going to be implemented pretty much in the dark. We obviously try to test them, but there are definite limits to how well or exhaustively we can test those things. Questions. Thoughts on fish tanks or ponds? Liking both. There are natural water formations in this world which effectively are ponds, in that they are lakes enclosed from the grand river system of the world. And there are, oops, knocking over the microphone here, like a pro. And there are also, but are you thinking a pond like some sort of construction that a player could build? I wouldn't be entirely opposed to that. That could be fun. Hoylander asks, do you like how local resources work at the moment? Will we be seeing changes? I'm a bit torn. I don't hate them completely. There are a couple of things with localized resources that are a little bit retarded. One of them being that I noticed that a lot of them are being harvested by alts, quite simply, and I'm not sure what we can do about that meaningfully. I think we could add some stat requirements to harvesting from a local resource, but that could be awkward, early world. And also, I'm not sure how much of a difference it makes. You just level up the alt and then, you can harvest away. Another thought that I've had is that, you could make it so that there is a distinct requirement that your hearth cannot be within X amount of distance from the resource, or else you can't harvest it. So you can't have just a hearth fire plop down right next to the resource in order to harvest it. say you have to live at least a macro grid away or whatever. But then, comes the question of how do we motivate that? Like, did a wizard do that, or what's the reason why you can't harvest them? It's kind of an arbitrary rule, so I'm not sure how we would motivate that. Then there's obviously the idea of moving resources indeed, and that could certainly be a thing. Not entirely opposed to that. We could also do that some resources move some of the time. Something, there's a ton of different variables there, and you could certainly disposition them in several different ways. You could imagine a lot of different configurations to how you do that. So that is certainly an option. So, but on the whole, my experience has, and I've written this on the forums as well, my experience has been that when I play the game, I have very little problems. And, it's been argued that this is, again, later in the world or whatever, but I've had no problems getting access to pretty much all the resources except for ice. And also another thing that I'm considering is to make a change so that it is never a crime to harvest from localized resources. I think that could be a reasonable change. S. Martins asks how it's going on with the new render thingy, and what he's referring to there is a major rework of the rendering pipeline of the game that the other half of the dynamic developer duo is heavily engaged in or with. There's a walrus over there. It's an ample opportunity to get ourselves knocked out good. And it's going well. He informs me. Obviously you'd have to ask him. He's the only one who really knows, but going pretty well actually. It seems that he's making progress, and I think we have the the 2D rendering, I believe, works. I think that he can render the UI now, so it's basically on to the 3D rendering the game view and all that. And once that's done, it should be pretty much done. But that is not the end of the optimization track of development. There are a lot of other things we want to do as well. Most importantly, perhaps, an optimization to make bone animated dorks like most animals and players. We want to make the rendering of those instanced, which is certainly a technical challenge if you have any insight into OpenGL programming. But Loftar has had an idea that we believe may work, and so that is another project. It's definitely smaller than the whole client rendering rewrite, which we've been occupied with for about 6 months-ish now. Maybe even longer. Maybe we pushed the push-out changes in May, so it's even longer. Why is Big Tolf not on stream this time? Well, I don't know. It's not his favorite forte in life, I don't think. But he will certainly be on other times. What was the other question? Would you be opposed to removing the hunger bar in its entirety? Yes, I would be opposed to that. Okay, but the reason for the hunger bar, or the thought behind it, is that, which is, obviously this bar. Basically what the hunger bar does in my mind, or at least what I want it to do, is to make it so that the harder you play, the harder you grind, the more problems you will encounter. So that there is a soft wall or a soft limit to how much you can advance ahead by playing more. That is the idea behind the not a hard barrier saying that you have to play such and such many hours, but a soft barrier that you can kind of negotiate with, where it gets progressively harder the harder you grind. So that's the idea behind the hunger bar, and I from the standpoint of game mechanics, I think that is a sound idea, and that's what I would like to do. Arguably, that's not perhaps what it accomplishes presently, but that is what it is intended to do. Let us take this male silk moth and let him be free. Let's see, more questions. That makes sense. I agree, and it seems reasonable. But salt inevitably devalues this bar's existence. I don't think there's any necessity that says that salt has to devalue that bar. I think that salt could be well balanced and well implemented and do something quite reasonable, in terms of affecting that bar a little bit. That could be fine. I think the problem is one of imbalance, not of fundamental idea. I don't think there's any fundamental, objective fact of the universe or whatever. And speaking of which, while we talk about it, speak of the devil. We're entering the village disgusting, apparently. Disgusting. Bip, 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 bip. Summer seasons, asks Mr. Softener. Definitely, Mr. Softener. Summer and seasons are, one of the original ideas for this game was to have a very harsh winter time, and that is something that we're still gonna get at some point. We're definitely gonna do seasons if we continue to work on the game, as I assume we will. We have no reason not to, and we're gonna do seasons at some point. But it's a kind of a big deal. Arguably there are plenty of ways we could go with that. Seasons could mean a lot of things. But we definitely want them. They pose a fair amount of technical challenge with with updating the tile data, primarily for snow. Hiding all the tiles under a layer of snow and then bringing them back out again, which is a technical challenge. We would have to have some sort of efficient way of doing that. So that's one of the things. And then there are a lot of things, like there are a lot of resources that would be need to be developed, like alternate seasonal textures for all the trees, and there are a lot of trees in Haven right now. There are 50 odd trees, and let's see if we can take on some ants. Can you take ants with 5 unarmed combat? Hope so. Huh, no starting deck, really. Have to build this manually. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Well, I guess I'll just add everything I have. So all the more reason that should have been an automated thing. No starter deck for combat. Starter deck. Smaller base for still tree. Oh, we love you. I love you too, guys. I don't even have the skills to attack anything. I'm useless. What am I lacking even? This is the thing. There's so much bullshit here, like locks and bolts, pottery, sewing, stoneworking. I don't need any of this. That thing I do need, however. The will to power. Power overwhelming. Wheelwright. So much nonsense here that should not be here. Let's see now. Mighty combat. Maybe I should be jumping a little bit and I'm getting my noobish self handed to me by these ants. I got knocked out. I got knocked out by ants. I got knocked out by ants. That is sublime. Best game. I'm using 2 arms, really? No, I'm not. I'm using chin up, so that was not the reason. Okay, let's take some questions while my character recovers. Do you have any plans for introducing endgame mechanics for crafting at the moment? I think the current lack of such potential mechanics also undermines crafting as a viable playstyle, if that makes sense. That's a valid point. I think definitely crafting could, go deeper and be something more, oomphy. But question is perhaps what? So there were some other questions here, I think. Karma Creeper insists that you had 2 arms on instead of chin up. Oh, right, I did. Right, my bad. That explains it. That's why I lost against the Ants. So that was, this entire system is just a huge trap for noobs. There should definitely just be a basic combat starting deck here, and we're going to fix that when we rework, as a part of the rework of the combat system. So, questions. More coming in here. Do you intend on... Dreadlord Dawson asks, do you intend on adding anything akin to alchemy or chemistry? I see no good reason why we shouldn't. Oh, I've been... While I was knocked out, the boys have been kind enough to equip me with the dragon helm, a pretty good linen shirt, pretty useless linen shirt, actually. That's a terrible linen shirt, sir. It's better than I have. And some very decent plate greaves, so thank you for those. And that buffs my agility down to a grand total of 1. So I do not think I can use these plate greaves, but I'll use them anyway. We won't be doing any fighting. I'm sorry, I apologize, I'm sorry. I should not be looking a gift horse in the mouth like that. I should not be questioning the glory of this linen shirt. It was a glorious linen shirt, sir, thank you. What do you think about animals being able to climb certain height cliffs, asks Norster 126. I definitely think that animals could use more interaction with heights. One of the things that I've been meaning to add for a long time is mountain goats. Could also segue nicely into domesticated goats. And I'm just not getting any serious playing done here. So that would be nice. And mountain goats would obviously require the ability to deftly, swiftly, and with much agility. Cannot harvest those because I do not have farming. I cannot afford farming, so let's pick some nonsense and afford farming. There we go, now we can afford farming. Where was I going? Oh well. Plan on adding more monsters, not animals, more fantasy-ish creatures and monsters. Sure, I'll be your kin. Good question. I'm a bit torn on that. I kind of like that the game is very low fantasy and it's, initial and how it presents itself initially at least, and yeah. So I'm a bit torn on that, but I'm also not strictly opposed to more fantasy-ish creatures either. I think there's a nice balance to be struck there. And I definitely wouldn't mind like some high-end fantasy creatures like giants or dragons or that could be cool, but we'd have to do it in a worthy way. Most games, I'm looking at you, Skyrim, have not done these things in a worthy way. Though the giants in Skyrim were kind of cool. Herding mammoths and stuff. I thought that was a nice touch. But the dragons in Skyrim were just terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Let's see. Amanda H&H asks, Bruderbone, 2 updates ago you mentioned a new dungeon. Is that coming soon? The new dungeon is something that we are working on. Yes, it is. But the priority, basically we have 3 days a week that we sit down and develop. We develop on together, like Frederick sits down right over there next to me, and we develop together. Hello, hedgehogs. And we have three of those days each week, and that's Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday when we push the patch. And for one or two of these days, we have for the past couple of months at least been developing a more kind of intermediate sized project, or something slightly larger, or a slightly bigger project, not like a huge project like the client rendering rewrite, but a slightly bigger project like, say, a dungeon, or in this particular instance, say, the combat system. So right now we're focusing on the combat system for our intermediate development, so the dungeon has not really advanced that much, but I am developing the artwork for the dungeon. That is during the other days when we're not developing together, we develop things that that we don't need each other for. Like Frederick doesn't need me much to help him with the client rendering nonsense, and I don't need Frederick much to help me with the artwork for a new dungeon. So during the rest of the week, I kind of implement little nonsense things like curiosities and food for the game, and also work on new art resources. So, and a dungeon has an annoyingly large quantity of artwork that is required for it. Preferably unique artwork and content that the kids like and want. Questions? Blah blah blah. Yep. Seems like we got all the important questions. Why tamed animals never decay? That's actually a motivated and good question from Norster126 that I've been asking myself as well. I think we're going to implement some level of animal decay. Originally it was implemented as a nice thing to be, kind to the players or whatever, but I think it's kind of outlived its usefulness. So I think what we need to do is make it so that tamed animals decay at least off claim. That way, if you don't want to butcher them, you could carry them off claim and ignore them. I think that could be an improvement at least. It's also a frequently recurring request for the ability to destroy animals, but not sure how I should feel about that. Let's see, more questions. Jordan Cozy says, please don't forget to give burrows walls in the new world. We actually considered fixing that as early as this world, but that was technically harder to do. So I have made a new note for it for future purposes and for future reference. I've made a note of it. So we're definitely going to fix that at some point. So this is what we've discovered thus far. It's a nice little... What did Bernie actually ask us to do? Greet Gribosk and go wave to Othilda. We'll do these things. We shall do these things for you, Bernie. You are our Lord and Savior. Donatakas 1994 asks, shouldn't tamed animals carried out from the clan become wild once again? Not if they're dead. I meant dead animals. That land is indeed owned by someone. I really love the new map feature, where it's not really new exactly. It's like, what is it now, a year old? Or thereabouts. I really like it. One of the things that I do when I play is that I make little notes like this. It says active 0127, today's date. That way I know that the claim that lies right there was active today. So when I look at my map next, if I come here again, I'll have some sense of the development of the world. Wow, he's really building a nice little palisade here. He must be so thrilled that I'm bringing all the entire clan circus here. But then again, there's significant decay on his palisade, so he might not be playing. The emo girl asks, will these satiations ever be fixed? Sausages satiating things like bread and vegetables just seems a little silly to me. Yeah, I agree actually. I think the development that I kind of want to move towards is when we do the rework of that system is probably going to include satiations only satiating, a category of their own. It's probably that is a change that I think could be very reasonable. Jorb confirmed blind. No, I'm not blind. I'm just ignoring you. There's a distinct difference between being blind and ignoring you. Let's see. Blah, blah, blah. Lots of things going on here. What are you talking about? Farming is terrible. Farming is not terrible. Farming is glorious. I do not prefer Salem's. Like, I agree that Salem did some interesting things with farming, but the thing I profoundly like with Haven's farming system is that it is per tile based. I think that is one of the key things. Well, farming is tedious. Well, I suppose maybe depends on how much you farm, I guess. But it's also one of those hard kind of balance points that people say things like, and even Loftar said this the other night. So we might see a nerf to how much animals eat soon. But he said like, oh, my animals ate too much. Have fewer animals. That's an answer. That's a potential answer. Like, farming is too tedious. Farm less. Like, and at some point that becomes the answer. I think there's a point. There's some sort of limit to how easy or accessible or convenient we can make farming. I mean, how convenient do you want it? Do you just want to be able to because one of the things that I have considered is to implement a field mechanic by which you can designate an area, kind of like how the leveling area designation thingy works, where you could designate an area for like a field, and then you can harvest that field, say, in its entirety, and just have the produce perhaps automatically stockpiled and everything. Like, is that how convenient it should be? You just basically go there and click to harvest an arbitrarily large size field, because we could do that. Like, that's the extreme endpoint. So where does your reasoning take you? Like, you say it's too tedious now. Well, where should it be? Like, you tell me. That's the obvious question that materializes when you make a claim like that. That sounds good. Everyone likes that. But do you really like that? Do you really, what are the consequences of that? What, if farming is just, custom clients do that already. Arguably they do. That's also one of the things. Like, people argue against bots and shit. I'm kind of more thinking, it's, as we can't beat them, try to join them. Like, maybe we should add bots. Maybe we should add just NPCs that you can order around and tell them to do things. But the problem is then, because the human quest for power and ease has no end, right? There's no, ultimately you want to be a god, right? Like, in endeavors like these, in advancing and whatnot. So ultimately you want the convenience of an all-powerful being in everything you do, and I'm not sure that's healthy for the game if people actually have that. So I'm not sure where those arguments really end. And it's kind of a sort of a transcendental argument for the existence of God, by the way. It's deep shit right here on this live stream, y'all. More questions. Many questions floating by here. We need the ability to destroy burrows, fill them with dirt, and then terraform it or something. That could definitely be a thing. Zunzon asks, what are your plans for New World or current world extending? I don't see us doing a world reset anytime soon. We're not in any rush to do a world reset. I enjoy this world. I'm not done with it by any stretch of the imagination. I have a lot of things that I want to accomplish with my character, so there's no rush on our part. And we have several important points of development that we want to have. So there's no, that's not what we're thinking about or working towards right now. And that's really all I have to say about it, because it's kind of a useless conversation to be talking about world resets every 15 minutes when you guys are bored with a new world. More questions? Burin asks a lot of questions that I think are just troll questions. Any personal tips for those of us who use your game to cope with our crippling depression and social anxiety? Just hang in there, man. You know, there's love in the universe for you as well, or a girl, or whatever you are, an internet entity. A concerned Hearthling asks, what do you think about putting signatures on crafted items? That could be a cool idea. I don't mind that at all. You know, it's a fine idea. Should honestly not be too hard to... Ooh, no! Nasty snake. Fortunately, my bodyguard, my brave and able bodyguard, is helping me out in defeating... We need to heal up, boys. We need to heal up. We need to eat more food so that we can heal up. We're still on 1 point here. Goodness. We suck. Yes, and we need to make a birch bark backpack. Goodness. We're just, you know, not focusing at all on playing seriously here. Okay, so if you see a birch, guys, holler at your boy. Would it perhaps then be prudent to consider more events/hazards that break up the tedium of farming? I think that's what separates farming from mining in many cases. So basically what you're telling me is that you want like trolls and cave worms appearing as you farm as well? It could be fun, I suppose. A giant, you know, mutated corn or into swamp. No, we're not. We're going around the swamp. Let's see. I made a dragon helm on a new on my real character, and I have to agree that it's not my finest artwork. So I have actually made a note to rework the dragon helm. Probably implement that model as something significantly less important. Oh goodness, what are we even doing? Where are we going? We're trying to find birch bark, I guess, to get a backpack, and then we're trying to... We need more water as well, and we need food. So those are the things we're doing. I just missed one. Sorry. Sorry. I am a terrible person. I should be able to eat pumpkin seeds. Pumpkin seeds edible. Pumpkin seeds edible. Made a note of that. Let's see, 3 to 4 birches already. Well, can you blame a boy for, you know, there's a lot of things going on. Where are we going? You tell me, man. Like, I wish I knew. To the water, I think. And then we were going to Gribosk, but I've kind of lost track of where he is now. Seriously, where is he now? There's Othilda, and there's Gribosk. Here's a dead man. You poor dead man. Hearthback, that's actually a good idea. Do you have any plans to make some animals, what was that, not rush to attack you when you aggro them? I find it a bit odd that this is the case. We actually discussed this just the other night, that it's a bit strange that, oh, shots fired, someone's down. Oh goodness. The Aurora City Guard is down. Goodness. Wow. Wow. Bye, guys. There's a dork waiting for me by my hearthfire. That is glorial. Glorial, y'all. Let's see. Orca Gabriel Garcia Lorca says, you said about reworking Claymore siege systems. Will it be before Reset or in New World? This will definitely be done in this world. Because if and when we do release a new world, I would want that to already be in place. Which is, you know, yet another thing that we would like to fix before anything like that should even be considered. Ricky P62 asks, can we have a more free-form building system? I feel like Haven Hearth has the feel of a game that would have a much more vast and robust building system rather than the cardinal directions we have now. You can actually place buildings in other than the cardinal directions, but I agree that, and this was one of the points that that I made in my State of the Year address, State of the Hearth address, or whatever you want to call it, at the beginning of the year, that ultimately I think the kind of, how do you want to call that, like the next big project that we're working towards is the project that we refer to as object-controlled objects, which basically means that we want to get rid of pocket worlds for houses, and we want to have it so made so that distinct objects in the game world can control other objects in said game world. So effectively you'd have a boat that you could walk on, and bridges and the like. And those are prerequisites for a more free-form building system. So that's what we're going to do. Catmisk asks, do you have any plans to promote the game more? Have you seen our Facebook page? I made a Facebook page. Jeez, how much more do I need to do? And I'm live streaming. Those are two things that we've done. Hey-yo. Wait, sorry. Hey-yo. Sure. Sage, let's see. Yes, True Lofter. I see your messages. You're dead? Goodness, poor man. Probably dead when the other kids find him. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. More questions. Why did you leave the party? To give them a challenge, perhaps? So, what are we doing now? I think staying in the boat is beneficial to our energy levels. I think we need to get those up, and I think staying in the boat is a useful trick. Staying in the boat and just, maybe opportunistically foraging a little bit, like here. Not wasting too much energy. Arguably, rowing a boat should drain stamina. I think there's a pretty good case to be made. Any new thoughts on a Steam release? Asks Roboboy333. Not really any sort of developed or matured thoughts. Only the thoughts that we usually have. Like, we could do a Steam release right now. I feel like I've been over this a couple of times, so pardon me if this is repetition to some of you, but normally, if this were a single-player game, I think Steam would be the only thing that made sense, because if this were a single-player game, then we would like to have a distribution channel for that game, and then Steam makes a lot of sense. But as this is an MMO, and as we intrinsically, by the very nature of what we're developing, we need to have systems for we need to have servers and those things. And since that's the case, I think we kind of need our own distribution platform, i.e. the webpage anyway. So not sure then, given that we have that, how, what roles still Steam fills. Accessibility would be the argument, but, I'm not sure how much that is worth to us in terms of, effort, and, because implementing on, going on Steam would, it's not trivial. I'm not saying it would be impossible or anything, but it certainly wouldn't be trivial, and I'm also not entirely sure on what it actually implies in terms of, the legal and contractual aspects of it. So, Haven Hearth t-shirts, definitely coming this year, promise. Pinky swear. Gonna fix that. Gonna look into that. So, definitely gonna fix that. My other car is a Knar. My other car is one of those Conestoga wagons. This is also a retarded thing about the early quests. Like, it asks me to craft a Cuxa like an hour after Cuxas were relevant to me. think these tutorial quests are it's kind of hard to set an appropriate level for them in terms of how in detail they should be, or what areas they should actually cover, because arguably eating and drinking are important features of the game. On the farming subject, says the emo girl, what if we had a steam-powered harvester and seed scatterer that could do like 3 tiles wide or something like that? Yeah, at that point, like a steam-powered thing would not be necessarily... I'm not entirely opposed to some steampunkish themes in the game, but that would be like a leap of new developments, and so it's not my first priority either. Own Up of the Potted Plant says, I want to see oceans. Well, at some point I hope you will. Oceans could be fun. Oceans are problematic in that oceans are basically just blue desert, but they can also... So, there's at least a developmental challenge there in filling them with meaningful content. I'm not saying that couldn't be done, and not saying that, some amount of blue desert is acceptable. I actually played the new Zelda game a little bit recently, and I came to the desert, whatever it's called. I don't remember the name of it. I don't know if you've played the new Zelda game, but I assume you have. So I came to the desert there, and I really liked how that desert was done. It was just basically like 2 or 3 screens worth of desert in between the major city and the little oasis on the edge of the desert. So, what are your thoughts about the current siege system? I think the current siege system is terrible. I think shields work terribly, terribly poorly. I don't like them at all. I think there's way too many gimmicks going on with multiple layers of shields, and claims establishing villages and then knocking down your own village to then quickly extend it over someone else's claim in order to have their shield count as low, and blah blah blah. It's just too much nonsense going on. I think we definitely need to look at that and rework it. But that's also always the case. We always need to rework Siege. Siege is a child of sorrows. It's a never-ending child of sorrows. Windmill water system in villages then. Yeah, that could be actually really fun. Some plumbing and water wheels, and maybe some stuff to get mechanical power out of water as well. I like. So our boy Sage seems to have... is he sleeping with the fishes now? Sagels? However you want that pronounced. Maybe. That's them be the dangers of following the dev around when he's live streaming. And they tell me that death is not a thing in Haven anymore. We've confirmed that to not be the case. Death is very much a thing. Viz J Walker says, you said in the State of the Haven address something about ships we can walk around. Anything to say on them? Will it be a new ship? I think the first order of business when we decide to implement that, and mind you, that's not something that's going to happen tomorrow, because there are several points on the way there. I think the first step in that direction would be to develop object control objects as a thing at all. I think that the second step would be to implement probably either a bridge or a raft, and then we would adopt the existing raft to that system so that you could walk around on the raft. And that would obviously imply, establishing some new systems. We would need some way to define like a plane over the raft upon which the character can walk. So we need to have support for some sort of walking plane like that on objects, and etc. etc. So that would be a fair amount of work, but hey, is this village abandoned? I think it is. Looting time. Let's see if we can find some food in here. Yeah, one of the other aspects of... Wow, he has a private lake. He has a private lake that he's the. I don't think one of the things that I love about playing Haven this late. Also, one of the reasons I'm really skeptical about World Reset right now is I love playing in a world with established ruins. I think, actual real ruins are one of the coolest things about Haven. And that, here was someone's, dreams and ambitions for a little virtual place to call his own, and now it is deserted and given to the Seven Winds, and we are free to explore it. And I've found, when I'm playing on my real character, I've had some really cool ruin delving experiences. I believe I spoke a little bit about that on. It is like a bittersweet thing walking around in these ruins. Like, it's definitely not, obviously someone quit playing the game, so that's a it's cause for sorrow, of course, but it's also, I don't know, kind of fun walking around and seeing other people's projects. And I also kind of like how decay works. I think the places tend to decay fairly graciously. I think that we could do a lot more with it. I think like we could I would love it if buildings became more overgrown, and I would love it if at some point, not instantly, but at some point, I would also like it if the paving got kind of cracked up and broken up by vines and all that nonsense. I would love that. And also abandoned settlements should definitely turn into haunts of various kinds that evil monsters move into them and make them their own and things like that, so that you have some reason to kind of fear walking around in them. S. Martins asks, what do you think about restricted zones on the map where you need to match some requirements to travel in there, like the New Zelda hot desert, cold mountains, etc.? I think that's one of the prime features of the New Zelda. I like that, actually. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it creates a lot of interesting topology. It adds to the topology of the game. But I think if I were to speak against it, I guess it incentivizes that you carry all the various types of clothing and equipment with you at all times. And when you do that, it becomes a non-issue. So I think those are, I suppose, the arguments against it. Sage is not happy about having been cleaved, apparently. We will tell him. Sorry about that. I believe Korean name, PBMen5, asks, you recently added butcher's cleavers. Do you have any plans to add fleece scissors? Yeah, sheep shears could definitely be a thing. I am not at all opposed to that. I think there was a bingo square for that could be fun. Jorb says that could be fun. He says that about everything. We'll consider. And also, one of the things that we could also do with ruins is, this is an oft-recurring request, would be some manner of repossession of building materials. That could also be fun, so that you can scavenge buildings for like stone and whatnot. It's kind of silly that we would have to maintain, in that case, like separate recovery lists or whatever for each of the individual buildings, or alternatively save the materials that went into building them, which could. Don't really want to do that. Don't really want to do either of those things, but oh well. What are we doing? How many birches have I rode past? Like 1 million? Probably. Probably like 1 million. That square was filled long enough, yeah. You're missing the client rendering and you're roasting the retards. What is that? What is it I do when I roast the retards? So I just delete this knar. Should I delete it? Should I delete this knar? Just delete it. Just eat it up. Just take this precious knar and Goodness me, sir. Goodness me, sir. You are playing with danger. There we go, that scared him off. Delete them. I'm not going to delete your vote. I'm not going to delete your vote. I promise, I'm not going to delete you. Oh, Birch, taking the bark like it's 1990. Hold up, it is. You have any plans? Asks Norster126. You have any plans? You ranged combat in the near future, not necessarily bows. Question, I suppose, is if we have any plans to add any new points of ranged combat. Not really, but I think that the Ranger's bow from Legacy should definitely be re-implemented. That could be a worthy project. So that's one item that we could arguably yeah. Yosik123 asks, are you going to fix constantly breaking environment sounds? I actually had an encounter with this issue. I suppose he means that the sound can kind of get laggy and stuttering sometimes. And I actually encountered this issue myself. I'm not sure. I have it on very low here, so I'm not sure how well you hear it right now or how well it's been playing out over the course of the stream. But I encountered this issue the other day, and I increased the size of the audio buffer, I believe, and that I found alleviated the issue I had with it. So arguably, that's probably your solution. There's a thread on the forums on with instruction on how to do that. I think it's just a client command. Many questions booming past here. Mr. Softner asked proper weapon/fighting animations. Definitely, I'd like to do that. I'd like to add more of those kind of gradually, but just haven't really gotten to it. Is all. Would definitely like to. HerpDerp03 asks, do you have any database/statistics on all the awful things that were written on runestones? We could obviously produce such a database, I believe. Or maybe not actually, but oh well. Well, we probably could if we just dumped all the runes, like loaded all the maps and dumped. If we really wanted to, I think we could do that. But no, we don't have a database of that. But I've made the observation that I don't think I've found like one normally occurring runestone that contained any sort of meaningful message. It's usually a lot of Cyrillic, no problem with that, but usually a lot of messages. But I can read it obviously, but. A lot of messages that are containing significant amounts of four-letter words and just nonsense. So perhaps, just throwing it out there, perhaps runestones should be somewhat more difficult to make. Yeah, that's a thought. Someone is playing an instrument, I believe. Goodness. Bye, dorks. We're moving inland. Fuck the boat. So, yeah. Mopsy Pacey asks, Jorb, when you make new arts in DeviantArt? I haven't done that in like 5 years, but I yeah, should probably do that. It could be fun. It's usually, I find that my art hours are kind of exhausted by Haven. I don't really have time to do art for art's sake anymore, because life has other demands. But it could certainly be. You have to make time for it, I guess. Is the answer. I once saw a collection of runestones with the Unabomber manifesto written on it. That's something. Hoylander asks, what bothers you most about the game at the moment? Kind of the things that we've been talking about, to be fair. I want to say one thing. I think that the game has never been in a better shape. I think that we've hit a pretty good stride, I find, with our internal development in terms of getting consistent long-term work in, while at the same time pushing regular patches. So we've hit a good stride with that, and I think that the game is in a really good shape. I feel that we don't constantly have to run around extinguishing garbage fires in the game, so that's a good thing. And I feel that we can kind of pick and choose among several appetizing lines of development. Obviously prioritizing is really hard. It's really hard for us to determine where our efforts make the most difference. So that's, if you have opinions about that, feel free to share them, because input is valued. But yeah, I think that the game is in a really good spot. I think it's getting kind of polished, and in several areas, and there are a lot of systems that we have now that we should important pieces are falling into place. And I think the things that bother me most are precisely the things that we are now working on, i.e. Slow rendering, biggest problem, I think. We're addressing that. Fighting system, I don't like the fighting system, we're addressing that. Siege, we're going to address that, I don't like that either. Obviously food, we spent a fair amount of time talking about food, don't like that either. We're going to work on that. And yeah, so those are the things that so basically we're working on the things that bother me most about Haven presently. Haven't really gotten anywhere in terms of my energy, have I? What's the point of spires, asks Mr. Softener. If nothing, we can make them into giant runestones. Yeah, that could be fun. We actually added, when we did the New World, or when we do New Worlds, we tend to add a lot of points for future development, not necessarily things that we're planning on doing anything with, or know exactly what we want to do with the instance we add them, but things that could be useful further down the road. Things that so that we can kind of add feature. Oh God, the squad is here again. They're clapping and everything. Just doop, 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 doop. Just eat you guys. Just eat you all up. Be gone. Be gone, all of you. Be gone, be gone, be gone. We'll just jump. We'll flee. Fly, you fools. We are now leaving angry hamsters behind. Ikeki Dragon asks, does the current combat rework include any changes to the current bow mechanics? The bow is not... Sorry about that. Just accidentally did the microphone here. Sorry about that. Won't do that again. Try not to. Sorry. The bow is not our priority in the rework. That's a new bingo. That is indeed a new bingo, sir. We expect nothing less. The bow is not really the priority. We're working on hand-to-hand, or melee combat, manly combat first. Uncle Ish asks, any thought on issue of player cry for a new world so often? Is there a plan for longevity of world? Or maybe you think people will always cry no matter changes? I think people will always cry no matter changes, and I think that the longevity of the world has significantly increased, I would argue. And I think it will continue to increase as we add more nonsense in terms of dungeons and more late game content of that kind, and also arguably more options for freeform building and customization. So I think the more we develop, I think the longevity of the world is going to increase eventually. And people can cry all they want, really. Things happen when they need to happen. So it's not A concerned Hearthing asks, "Are you content with gems at the moment? I would love to see them in crafting recipes." I'm not. I'm never, I guess, content with anything. You know, that you could always add more or do more, or, you know. But I'm not, you know, viciously unhappy with how gems work either. It's a good question, you know, how gems work in the way where you can slot them into jewelry, like rings and such specifically. It's a good question how we should develop that further, I guess, is my diplomatic answer. Life is a never-ending state of discontent, Jorb 2018. That is true, sir. That is so true. Artemis WHB asks, "Any ideas on changing silk farming? It's pretty boring and tedious as it is now." This is an oft-recurring complaint about the tedium of the game. So, again, I suppose, where does your argument lead you? Is the solution to add, like, say, a button that you press, and when you press it, you get 10 silk cloth? Is that what you want? What do you want? How easy should it be? I think that's the owner of the potted plant chimes in. Tedium is a feature, and he has a point. So obviously, I'm being a bit like mean with the extreme example there. Like, I'm not saying that there aren't meaningful improvements that we could make to silk farming to make it more fun and engaging. Perhaps we could. Like, one of the oft-recurring suggestions is a silk moth habitat, or a structure where a silk moth can, easier be fed. And I'm not necessarily opposed to any of that, but there's a fear in me that when we do make it easier, you simply scale your operation up. You scale your operation up because it's easier to do, so you start farming more silk. And then, the end result is that you end up with a situation where you exhaust the marginal gains on the new improved system, and then suddenly you start finding that tedious. So basically, we add convenience, and then you push through all that convenience to the point where you reach a new plateau where you find that the new system is just as tedious. There is a dynamic like that, I think, and if we're simply kind of pushing the goalpost for where the tedium lies, then I'm not sure we're accomplishing much. Maybe we are accomplishing something, maybe, and again, I'm not saying that silk farming couldn't be more aesthetic, couldn't be more fun, couldn't be more engaging. It could be all of those things, I'm sure. And I'm not opposed to making it all those things. But I'm not sure I have, a million great ideas for how to change that specific thing either, so. Jordan Cozy asks, lobster cages. Yeah, long overdue, right? Slame and Hearth confirmed. Long overdue lobster cages. Would love a lobster pot. Definitely. We'll make a note of lobster pot. Can come back to this a year later and find that nothing of this has been implemented, so we're going to make a note of that. Lobster pots. In all seriousness, though, lobster pots would be fun. Lobsters would be fun. Crayfish would be fun. Yes. Owner of the potted plant. Have you considered making there a larger discrepancy in tree size, as opposed to the more uniform size we see now? I want to have a masterwork King's Oak as a village center. Would love that, actually. Would love to have a more differentiated tree sizes, and would love to have more realistic trees, because these are honestly more like bushes, all of them. And the reason they are that way are for reasons of perspective. Originally, when we were developing, we tried significantly larger trees. Why am I carrying these snails around? There needs to be an easier snail recipe. What do I have? I don't even have a snail. Yeah, well, I do, actually. Escargots d'amour. What have I picked? Oh, yeah, stinging nettles are look at them go. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Stinging nettles are salad. I'm try to find some of those, I suppose. There's one. Go find stinging nettles after I've thrown all the snails away, so that I now have no snails. Brilliant thinking there, sir. So the reason the trees are small are for reasons of perspective, is my point. And making them better, I think, ultimately the really long-term project would be to increase the view and rendering distance, so that you could actually see the horizons and look up at the stars and all that nonsense that you want to be able to do with bad cam, instead of the beautiful isometric camera that the gods intended and gave to you. Due to your sinful hearthling nature, you have shunned the objectively better isometric view. One Breath says, "Thank you for thinking outside of the box. Your game is amazing. Thank you again." Thank you for saying it, man. It means a lot. Thank you for enjoying the game. Hope to see you stick around. Blah, 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 all that. Thank you. It means a lot. Have you considered different roads to credos? You could have a jack of all trades. Yeah, it's how credos should be. Again, the disposition of credos is very much up in the air. We've considered, like, I could definitely see, like, easing the requirements for some of them, so that you would only, like, say need, say, like, a tier 2 credo could require one tier 1 credo. It wouldn't matter which one, etc. So you could make the requirements a lot more flexible. So you could do a lot with it. I'm very open to discussing changes to how the credo mechanics should work, but I'm also not. It's like I haven't really committed to any particular path of changes. Mr. Softner asks, what? Oh no! I'm gonna get knocked the fuck out. Can I get across here? Probably not. Wow, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah. Let's see, more questions. Scalable UI. It's inevitable in the future with new monitors, etc. Yep, I agree. We're gonna have to fix that at some point. We're gonna have to fix scalable UI. The question is, how excited are you about the prospect of us, taking 2 months off to work on the user interface? Because I'm not particularly excited about that. Yeah. How long do you think this world will survive until wipe? I can't comment on that. That's, it'll live as long as it lives. I am in no rush to get rid of it. I'll tell you that much. Because I have not gotten all the credos yet, so... Yeah, intelligence seems like something this particular hearth thing could definitely use. Sledgehammer as a weapon of choice when, asks Onip of the Potted Plant. Yeah, sledgehammers should definitely be a weapon. One of the things we're hoping to do with the new combat rework is find more of various roles kind of for different weapons, so that there's more reason to add more weapons. Before you got your ass handed to you, Mr. Softner asked, what do you want to add to the game that others might not like? That's a good question, Mr. Softner. I'm not sure I have an answer off the top of my head, really. I don't know. What do I want to add that others might not like? I'm blank, man. I'm not sure I can think of anything. Sorry. It was a good question, but I'm not sure I have a good answer. All right. Let's see. Are we getting any fishing changes? Asks Karma Creeper 97. I find it quite hard to get the type I'm looking for. Most are not worth the effort. Yep. I have to agree with you there. Fishing is kind of lackluster. It's a good question. I mean, the problem is if we make it too good, it quickly risks becoming much too good because it's a very kind of inexhaustible resource. You can fish pretty much as you want, so I'm kind of thinking we can't make it too good. But that being said, I also think it's a bit too useless right now. So and I also think there are a lot of problems with it. For example, I think that the bait fishing is too strong compared to the lure fishing. You can basically bait fish, and bait fishing is essentially random. You can just basically, not entirely, but you can basically fish out any fish um, that you want using bait fishing, just hoping for a good random roll. And I think bait fishing should be significantly more limited in terms of what fishes it can actually catch. I also think there needs to be better fish recipes. I think I would like it if there were something like say drying fish or some way to make something more involved, or something that required a bit more investment of time and energy into the resources to make them better. I'm not saying cheeses. Maybe we should have like loot fish and those things, like a cheese system for fish. Would actually probably be fun, like pickled herring confirmed for best food of Haven. That would actually be fun. Pickled herring. That would actually be a good idea. So I'm definitely going to consider that one. But yeah, it needs more recipes. Whatnot. I don't know. How do you guys feel about that? I guess is a good question. I suppose you only use a couple of like the best food dishes or whatever. Not much variety going into it at all. Like, is it just cheeses or just any? Would you mind answering Ozzy's question about walling off natural resources? What was Ozzy's question about walling off natural resources? I would love to answer it if I can. I'm not sure I caught it. I talked a little bit about walling off natural resources earlier. How rare, asks Sages of Fan TV, how rare is the talking whale thing I had at one point, but it got stolen? What are the odds of fishing one? I believe if you had one, oh looky here, we found a heartwood tree, and it actually has leaves on it. If you found one, I think, and those are salad, so we can make our new fish or snail food here. Just gonna light a new fire here. So no trolling anymore. Are you guys going to completely prevent walling off claiming natural resources? No, I'm not. One of the intentions on my part is that they should be possible to claim or wall off to some extent. I don't mind that as a point of conflict or whatever. But that was at least the intention. I'm not sure if it's working out, but I think it could work out if we, make the appropriate changes. I think that could be a thing, and that's how I would like it to work. So I'm not entirely opposed to claiming them, but we could definitely make things like moving them every now and then, at least for some of them, whatnot. I think preventing the walling off of them entirely, I think would be difficult. I'm not sure how we do that mechanically. I'm not sure how we accomplish that. Is pickled herring good? I could imagine it being good. Like, I mean, I suppose it's basically like surströmming, which is a Swedish dish, which is, it smells worse than it tastes. It's pretty good. I'm originally from up north, so I've had surströmming in my days. Lots of questions here. How about making blacksmithing more realistic? That's a good one. I think all the metals industries could use a big lift. I think we could do so much more with them. I mean, basically there are 5 things you can build. like a crucible and a smelter and an anvil and, you know, not much more. I think we could do so much more with that. I would also like to do more with, you know, mechanics, like, you know, making little cogs and nonsense like that. But I'm not sure we have the proper mechanics. I think we lack generally a metric, or you know, a way to price things which kind of revolves around them being difficult to craft. Say a bucket, for example. Like a bucket in real life is not something that you just, you know, kind of whack together from two boards in 5 seconds. And I'm not saying that we should add tedium to the game, but I am saying that I think some like strategic resources could use, you know, a better pricing point where we can price them better in terms of them being, you know, hard or difficult to construct. So yeah, so we could do a lot more with the metals industries in general. And I think, you know, more uses for metal, frankly. Like I've, you know, on my real character, I've farmed up these huge stockpiles of metal that I don't see any sink for, really. I would love to add a sink for metal. Let's see where we at. Okay, so we're coming up actually on the 2-hour mark. We're, you know, kind of getting there. And I said that we were going to run a shorter stream, so I suppose if I'm going to have any chance of holding to that at all, I suppose I should start rounding it off. I feel like we only scratched the surface of the subjects that we could have discussed. S. Martins asks, where's Loftar? Most likely at home. That is where you usually find him. Oops, sorry. Oh, right, how rare is the whale? That was the question I intended to answer. Yes, I think it's about 1 in a million that you get it. I'm not sure, it might be 1 in 100,000. Okay, so we're about to get ourselves knocked out by an adder here. And maybe that could be a worthy end to the stream. Let's try to get away from it if we can. Let's see if we can get away from the escape from the vicious adder. Oh wow, man. Man. Okay, so final questions, feel free to present them, feel free to shoot away before we call it a night. Visit the market. The community fair, Aurora, all those places, you guys, I'm blown away. You've made some really, really beautiful structures and things. I'm thinking, I've committed to doing one of these live streams every month for the rest of the year, so that's what I'm going to do. So we're going to do another one in February. And I'm thinking what we could do then is try to visit a big city and walk around there. We would be aided in this ambition if you didn't constantly clap and, you know, didn't do nonsense to make that hard for me when I stream. But it could be a fun thing to do. Could definitely be a fun thing to do. Several people asked about WAST. Any ideas for new moment? Not really. Loftar would be more qualified to comment on that. He has stronger opinions on WAST than I do. Will there be a better magic system? There isn't really. I suppose there's hearth magic. We want magic to be very low key in the game, so add an option to me clapping. Yeah, sure. I could just turn the sound off, I guess. That is always an easy fix for that problem. So, let's see, we managed to rack up a couple of good wounds. We got ourselves a dragon helm. Thank you for that, whoever gave it to me, and some decent plate gauntlets here that we didn't do justice. The fantastic shirt, of course. It's probably our prime gain here. We got the Dem linen pants, got those as well. Rocking the plate greaves and rocking the fur boots, everything. Scroll up chat for anything particular. Can we get a skybox? Yes, eventually at some point. I would like to have a skybox. Next patch sneak peek. And then there's this guy, right? Can we do this? How about spawning ads until you crash the server? That sounds like a great idea. What about level cap? Yeah, we might bring that back at some point. All right, so guys, this was a lot of fun. We're gonna do it again February, and yeah. So you know, I guess keep on keeping on. Thank you all for playing Haven. Thank you all for watching me tonight. Thank you all for being here and asking such initiated and interesting questions. Thank you for being the wonderful and beautiful people you are. Spawn 100 dryads. I can do that, I think. Secretly crashes the server. Make a bunch of them. Alright, and I'm also here Dryad Central. I'm dropping all this nonsense gear. So if you want my bone saw, linen pants, all this shit, you can just come and get it, yo. And alright. Take care, you guys. I'll see you all in February, and you know, we're just gonna keep on developing, and you know, look forward to patches. We're gonna do one next week. So, yep. Stay safe. God bless. You know, walk in light, all of you, and I will see you all soon. Bye bye now. Thank you.